Okay, we're going to take the...
You ready?
Yep, we're going to take the steel out of the fire now to make the hot cut hardy. I'm making a hot cut hardy that is, that's okay. That is, don't do it with your gloves. You get your gloves wet. And I'm going to do this butchering under the flat dies. As I told you before, the butcher is less than 90 degrees. And I've got my butcher marks already marked. I'll go in a little ways both sides. I'm trying to keep this square. And also, I don't want to go too deep. I want to go about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch less than my 1 1/4 hardies that I'm going to make. Looks good to me. See if I'm in the center. A little more over here. Now, as I explained to you earlier, if I just forge this down now, I'm liable to push some of this back over and cause a cold shut. So I'm going to make a fuller mark here. It's going to cause a high spot here. And then when I forge that, forge that section, it will forge in both directions and not cause a cold shut. Talking, I got that a little bit cold, so I'm going to reheat it. Now, I'm doing that forging about 1 1/4, 5160 with flat dies on the small hammer. What I would normally do is go to the second hammer, whether it be a 50 or a 60, it wouldn't matter, with drawing dies, and it would make a much easier forging, quick. Now, the really important thing at this time is to tell you that if you're going to draw, two things. If you're going to draw with flat dies, you need to feed a small chunk into the baby and forge it down and move over and get another small chunk and forge it to that dimension. Your dies will stop you. And then get another chunk until you're finished and then start over again. Turn over and do the same thing. You're moving a small amount of iron. It's not like flat dies, it's more like drawing dies. Always feeding in. Unless you've got a long piece, you can start that from the back and feed it in from the back. We don't have a long piece here, our only option. Now, really important, we're going into a square hole. We must have a square shank. And the way I keep things square, first of all, I pay attention to what I'm doing, and I keep my crooked eye, my left eye, okay, on the side of the die, and I try to keep this piece of steel parallel to that side of that die. If I've got it parallel to there, I've got a square piece. If you're going to get out of square, catch it quick where you can get back up on the corner and forge the material back down and then roll that over until you've made it square again, okay? So you got to pay attention, folks. You cannot take a parallelogram, which is an outer square piece, and make it, once you get to dimension, you cannot make it square again. There's no place for the metal to go. You could do it possibly with V-blocks on top and bottom to squeeze the material over. It's a good way to do it, but it's better to forge it square. Now, if I don't forge this square, it is 1 1/4 inches. It's going to be when I put my kiss blocks in. It is 1 1/4 inches, and that's an 1 1/4 inch hole, plus the amount of shrinkage that comes with hot iron. If it's out of square, it won't go in there. It just simply will not go in. So you're going to either wind up doing some grinding, and then you're not going to have a good fitting piece. But you can make it fit by grinding. Now, I'm going to go right back with my flat dies now. Normally, like I said, I would do this with the drawing dies. But I want to show you that you can be done with flat dies without tooling. Come on. And also, I always do this in one heat. But with the talking, this 5160, a big piece like this, does not move so easy. And so if you talk a bit and lose your heat, you've lost. I'm going to forge a little bit more before I put my kiss block in. Kiss blocks in. These kiss blocks go in very comfortably without putting your hand in harm's way. 1 1/4 inch on each side. Now I can forge that right down to dimension. Okay, it happens. Okay, folks, this is one, you just saw a saw block come loose. One of the keys came loose. That means that key is not fitting properly. It's a brand new key, a brand new hammer. And it's one of the reasons why I test all hammers and I run them through my forging cycles to see if everything's fitting right. This key is a little bit off, I can tell you. Now, when this forging is over, you see how actually is a very dangerous situation. It actually knocked the saw block out right in my direction. And even the old man has reflexes enough to get out of the way. I also immediately got my foot off the treadle because had I gone down with the hammer again, the ram would have hit the bottom of the saw block. Listen with your ears. I could not hear that. I was really surprised, but I didn't hear it. I first saw it move one step quickly out, and I got myself out of there. And myself out of the way because I knew where it was going. It's coming to me. And so it pays. Here again now. I've been forging for a while. Give me another hammer. So I'm going to check my other keys to make sure they're still good and tight. That one took a little bit. Okay, they're good. Now, mechanical things don't care. They don't mind hurting you at all. So it's up to you to pay attention to what's going on. And in this case, no harm done. But I would not like to have that happen with a brand new hammer in somebody else's shop. So I'm going to correct that. Who knows? It could still possibly happen in your shop. And if it does, just be on the alert. Any one of these keys could come apart. And the dies will come flying. Normally, it's the first time I've ever had a saw block kick out on me. First time ever. I had dies kick out. You can hear them rattling when they get loose. I couldn't hear that saw block. It was down flush on the thing. This is a new experience for me. And my mind is just in a spin right now to try to figure out some way to lock that saw block in there if the key does come loose and it won't come out. And I'm already thinking about putting some stabs out in the front, and then I don't care about the back. It won't go out the back. I'm thinking about already in my mind now to put some tabs out here that you can put on and take off. And if it does come loose, it'll come against the tab, it'll stop. Okay? Now, we've got our iron back in the fire, and we're going to continue on. So just one moment. Ian will bring the steel for me. Thank you, Ian. Now we'll get our hammer running again. This hammer, I'm cutting, chiseling a slot in here, which will be an index. That means that this tool that index will point towards the horn always. We're going to see how she fits now. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to hammer just a little bit more up high. Now we fit it into the wedge block, and look how I break my handle right off. No problem. Had I welded it all the way around, it would have, I'd have to go to a chop saw or something and cut it off. But now, I don't want that mild steel migrating into, as I forge it, migrating into my tool steel, so I'm going to run to the grinder right quick and grind that little bit of steel off. I'll be right back. Okay, folks, after our incident a little while ago, we've already come up with a solution, and we're going to test it to see how it works. I simply took a piece of 1-inch round and stuck it in the hole that holds the whole cell block assembly to the anvil, and it cannot come out. It can come loose, but it cannot come out. Now, it's a test, and we're going to see how it goes. And I'm not worried about the back, because dies can only come loose and out towards the small end of the taper. If they try to go back the other way, they'll tighten themselves because the taper gets larger. So anytime a die gets loose, a key gets loose, you can look forward to it coming out the small end, which is going to be here on the die. Now I can also put a round piece of steel in here to hold the bottom die if this works, but I'll have to figure out something else for the top die, and I will. But we want to make, it's an ever-evolving thing. Safety, working on machinery is an ever-evolving thing. And number one, I want to make keys that hold the dies that will not come out. In case one does, I want it to be safe-proof, okay? Yeah. The plug is simply a piece of 1-inch round. It goes down and hits the bolt inside, the Allen bolt, and comes up high enough so that it will catch the dovetail. I mean the male part of the cell block, which is the XY part of the dovetail. Okay, we're getting ready now to seat this. But what I want to do, I've got my tang too hot and expanded. I want to fit that hole the best it can. So I'm going to, I don't know, did we ever seat this? There we go. How's it look? Looks good to me. Let's take it out of there and I'll go to forging it. What we're doing here is making sure that we got a good flat seat on the bottom of the tool. Now I'm going to the power hammer and start forging it. show you something peculiar to steel. Not peculiar at all, but when I forged that the first time, up close here, I pulled the corners up. Okay, so now we're going back to the swedge block and knock them back down again. Ian, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Good. Very good. The reason we're walking, let me see, the reason we're walking around while we're striking is sometimes you pull your material with or push it with a striking hammer. If you walk all the way around and hit from all angles, it'll balance itself out. Now I'm going back to the hammer, and this will not draw the corners up anymore because this material across here will hold it. All right? I'm really talking, I got it pretty cool. I'll let that get a little cool. I normally do all this in one heat, but I don't like to forge 5160 below that temperature, so I'm going to put it back in the fire briefly. Okay, we've got our iron reheated, and I'm going to finish drawing it with this hammer. I hit the corners of that to break the scale loose, because I don't want to forge that scale into my forging. Product, no adjusting needed. You can do this type of forging. You can do this precise. I'm going to let the camera take a closer look. And I want you to see the finished forging. First of all, that Hardy was dead center. Forging, I love forged marks, but I don't like big old ugly looking forged marks. Now, what makes a nice forging is that you regulate your power and your pull. It's the same thing on the opposite side. And you will notice that we've broken the corners. And after I broke the corners, I went back and made sure that that little bit of lip that came over here and came over here were forged down. And we also, under the power hammer, put my touch mark in it. It may be upside down for you there, I don't know. It's upside down. And it may not show well on the camera, but it's in there. Now this is a finished bending fork. It's ready to be annealed. I'm going to stick it back in the fire and bring it up to above 1475 degrees. And then I'm going to put it in vermiculite, and it'll still be warm in the morning, but it will be soft. Another thing I do with the hot cut is I stick it back in the hardy hole. It's important that the hot cut top be parallel to your anvil. This is after it's annealed. Now, we got our parallel, we draw our line, then we take our blocks away. Now, for sure, our cutting edge is going to be parallel. We're going to cut it off there with a chop saw. And our cutting edge will be parallel to your anvil face. So after coming out of vermiculite in the annealing, I'll make sure if the mark's not there, I'll remark it. And then we'll take the chop saw and we'll cut above the line so we know we're still square. Leave the line there so that when we go to the grinder to grind it, then we can tell we are absolutely parallel with our line. So we'll square it off and then we'll start grinding our cutting edge. Okay? So, I'm going to take this out, turn it around. It's plenty hot. It's a little hotter than I really need to have it. And I have a tub of vermiculite here. I'll push her down in there. Well, I buried it beneath completely in the vermiculite. Yeah. You want the vermiculite all the way around it. It's a great insulator. Other mediums of annealing, the old timers used ashes. I don't like ashes. They don't cool slow enough. They use lime and various cinders, things like that, but vermiculite or perlite also works very good. And that steel would be too hot to touch with your hands in the morning. I want to start by showing the raw material that I'm going to use to make one of my nail headers. I use 5160, and this is a predetermined size, and I have a mark here as to where I want to start forging to create. So in my very first forging, this shape. Okay, it's going to start like this. I have the mark here that shows the distance I want to start shouldering here. And I'm going to forge this taper.
What is that distance?
That distance? It's the same distance of the thickness, width of the stock. Okay? It could, I actually go a little bit less, doesn't matter. I actually go a little bit less than the width because I can hammer it down. If I had it longer than that, it would make an oval shape, and I don't like that. Okay, so I'm going to put this piece in the fire, and then I'm going to come back to the hammer, and I'm going to draw this taper, and I'm going to make this handle, this tang here that's going to be the handle on my second forging. Okay, no, on the same forging. I'll do all that in one forging, one heat. Now, what's really a challenge to me is I want to make this the right length. the right length happens to be the same distance of my dies. This one was made too long. So I challenge myself. That's 5 inches roughly, and I want that to be 5 inches long. So I'm going to the fire with this. Now, by the way, my tongs. My tongs, I'm going to be pushing on that to create a good shoulder here. When you push on tongs, it slips on the stock. I've welded in place here 2 stops. You cannot push past those stops. So as I push, I can push as hard as I want, make a steep shoulder, and my tongs will not come in harm's way under the die. Okay? Now, I'm going back to the fire with this piece. Okay. Pull that one off to the side. Okay, we're coming out with this. We're going to the drawing dies in this case. I'm going to start right on the point I marked. Notice that I'm rolling the stock to the opposite side frequently every time I forge a little bit, because the hammer forges more from the top than it does the bottom. I want to keep this centered. My end first, because if I wait until after I forge this all the way out to the end, it'll be too cold and it'll split. So I'll start back here. I make it square first. I make it octagon. And I'll start rolling it. Slowly feed the baby, carry that heat right back to the end. Okay, now I'll come around from this angle and although these are drawing dies, they're flat down the center. And so I drew this piece, let's take a look, nice and perfectly round, without having any other tooling except the dies. Now, I need my hack, because this is a little bit too long. When I forged it, and I knew it was too long, because when I forged it aggressively, I got the end too small and I wanted to cut it off. I'm going to put this back in the fire temporarily. Where's my hack? Anyone. good enough. Yeah, that's a good one. Now, well, that was too long a little bit. I'm going to cut it off with the hack. Have to really be careful. Don't go too far. Now use the snapper on the other end. And cut that piece off. It's just as nice and slick. Okay, good. You got my glove. Okay, we're going back. We're going to do another one right quick just to see. Beautiful. Now we're going to take our hack and cut it off, but we're going to the flat dies. And also so the camera can see better. It's almost too cold for cutting, but it's okay. Now we've got a nice perfect cut on the end. Now we've got a nice perfect cut on the end. Okay. Okay, folks, there are two more stages to making a nail header. Actually, there's three, but under the forging of the power hammer, there are two more stages. And I'm going to take those two we made earlier, and I'm going to cool the handle because I like to have a hold of that handle while I'm doing this. Now I'm going to make this nail header round, and I'm going to do it. I can do it under the flat dies or I can do it under the rounding dies. It doesn't, the drawing dies, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to come over here. Now, one thing I want you to notice about our hammers, guys, we've got the ability to go way down low and hit on top of the steel. So I'm going to start rounding this. Don't get ahead of yourself. A little on one side, a little on the other. Go back. real control. We've got this way up in the air, and I'm going to break the corners. Now we've got a nice round. I don't mind it's a little flat on top because it doesn't matter. But now we got a nice round nail header that will next go under tooling. I want to put that on the floor if you don't mind. Next we're going to flat dies, and with tooling here, and this tool here. But first I have to, where'd my tongs go? Over here. I'll leave the tooling here somewhere handy, and I'll go get my piece out of the fire. That's already nice and round, and I'll tool it a little bit. This is the tool that I showed you earlier, rounding tool, and just a couple of taps, and a little bit more over here maybe. Now, I want to make sure that's got a little bit in it, so I'm going to hold down here. And now we're finished there. You see the angle?
Show it over here.
Okay. You see the angle? That's maybe a little too much, so I'm going to straighten it up a little bit. That's better. Now, I'll take my touch mark. I'm going to move the die out of the way. Put this on the... Now we've got our touch mark in. Let me go and show it to you on... Okay, good enough. That's a wrap. Thank you, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been my real pleasure, and I hope it helped you with your hammer a bit. Thank you. That was never been used before. Those bolts are too long. We got to cut them off someday. Good. Thank Not too bad. let's go in the fire to here. Where do you want the touch mark? In between two of these?
Yes, sir.
I have to tell you that you still have to you have to represent this as a sample piece Tom did,
Absolutely.
because I was below the mark up there of that dimension right up against the decorative piece. Okay, what we're doing here, folks, this was a sample railing that I made as a test piece when I was doing railings for the Floyd Daniel Memorial baluster railing in Madison, Georgia. And Kent wants to take it home, so I'm dressing it up a little bit. It was a sample and it wasn't finished very well. Time for the touch mark, all right? Double strike. Double strike. It's there, but I'm going to do it better. Getting too cold. Too cold for a touch mark. It's there. I don't like it, but it's there on the double. I'll put another one if you like down here. We're going to cool this now and turn it around, but the touch mark is there.
Okay.
All right, folks. We're going to continue with this. We did half of it from one end, and we'll do the other half from the other end. shabby. You know where a touch mark might look good?
Where's that?
Right up on top of this, right up on top of that.
Sure.
Well, I can do that. It'll be hot when we get over there. I can do that easy. I can put it either place now, easy.
I think it ought to be up there where you were suggesting.
If I can get a good strike in there. No. God damn it. I got her now, babe. Oh, yeah. Take a look.
Bring it over here and let me sit on the camera.
Well, I was trying to let you get it there, but I'll bring it over here on the where I can hold it steady. Go down here. Come on around. Now you got it.
I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I'm not through. I didn't break the corners. I didn't break the corners. That's got to be good enough.
Hey, are we calling it a wrap?
Yes, I think so.
Thank you, Tom.
If there's anything better to be done to it, you'll have to do it.
Hey, I'm proud.